Okay, we will go ahead and get started. We have you get your own table today if you'd like. You can sit wherever you want. Part of doing this seminar today is we're going to film it, so some people who cannot come will be able to watch it. But we are glad to have all of you here. My name is Corey Hutcherson, and I am here with the Wake Forest Chamber of Commerce, and we are going to be putting on a seminar today about our Wake Forest Career Readiness Academy. We want to thank all of you for being participating businesses in this program. This should be a pretty short seminar. I know we allocated 2 hours, but we really believe that it'll probably be over with by 10:30. But please, by coming in person today, any questions you have, please ask. And if you'd rather not ask with the group and want to ask one-on-one with anybody afterwards, please do. We are here to support you and your business in this process. And again, thank you for being here. So kind of go over what we're doing today. I'll introduce our internship committee. We have some people here today, some that are not. And then our four main areas, we're going to do an HR overview. Mimi Sewell, who you'll hear from in a second, she's going to kind of provide that. Some of you have already met her at our interest meetings. And then we have a manual, business training manual in your packet. We're going to kind of go through that. We're not going to go line by line, but we'll hit the high points, and then you're welcome to read the rest at your leisure. Deborah Horton, who has been participating on our internship committee, she's going to kind of cover how to set goals with your student for the internship. And then finally, Dennis Beamer, some of you met him. He's actually not able to come here today. His wife has cataract surgery this morning. We didn't know if he'd be able to make it or not, but I'll hit the support team. And that's something that is kind of unique with this program is having support. You as a business owner during this whole process, if you need any support with the internship experience with your student, we're here to support you. So we'll go over that. So, internship committee, we've had a great group work on that. We've had school officials. Some of you, if you work with the schools, Sarah Joyner of Wakefield High School, she's been very involved with supporting this project. Dawn Beester with Heritage High School has also been very involved. Susan Tyson is also, she's provided some great resources for the program. Mrs. Barbara Wiggins, who is right here, some of you know, you'll hear from her in a second when we go over our manual. She has been very, very involved in this whole process, and we really want to thank all of her efforts in making this project come to fruition. Mimi Sewell, who is again kind of our HR consultant, guru, listener, whatever we want to. She's the HR whisperer. That's her nickname. No, but she's been great in supporting this project, and we're going to hear from her in a second. Dennis Beamer, who again is not here, he is a retired counselor from Illinois and kind of decided to jump on this project. He found out about it when the town of Wake Forest recognized the chamber for winning the grant, and he's been very active in recruiting businesses and also putting together this internship experience. And he'll be our lead support team member throughout the process. I don't know if Jonathan Williams, some of you might know Focus Design Builders. He was helping in recruiting. Dawn Daria, who helped check you in, she's been involved in our committee with developing standards and support. Jody Jerome with the Open Desk and Blue Lift Pressure Washing has also been involved with this process, and then Daniel White with Chick-fil-A. So we've had a lot of great people supporting what we're doing, and this internship experience is part of the whole experience the students are going to go through. And I will say I think it's the most important part because it gives the kids real life work experience, and that's really the whole point of this program is to provide a career readiness skill so they're able to hopefully, which will be great, they can actually be your future employees. That is an ultimate goal for businesses, but also they can be great employees. If your future employees, they're great employees for someone else. That's really an ultimate goal of this program. So I'm going to now pass it over to Mimi, and she can jump on the most important piece, HR, our favorite topic of the day. So Mimi, ready to go?
Thank you, Court. So I'm glad they gave you guys over to me first so everybody's got their coffee and enough caffeine ready. Okay. Thank you, Corey, so much for the very kind introduction. I love this HR whisperer. I may add that to my website. That's fantastic. Stealing it. We're gonna go over some HR basics, and most of them are focused on working with minors in the workplace as opposed to general employment issues. If we went over everything in HR, as you guys know, we would be here all day long and you would probably shoot me and Corey. So we're trying to touch on some highlights. If anyone has specific questions on anything, I'm happy to respond. There may be some things that we may need to talk about offline, one-on-one. So if it's something like that, I'll let you know. So generally, we're going to go over employment certificates, the difference between a paid and an unpaid internship, and some other key pieces when it comes to paying interns. And then we're just going to go over a few practical tips at the end. Okay, some of this we've gone over at some of the orientation programs, but we're going to go a little bit deeper, give you a few resources and some additional information. All right, so first thing we want to make sure everybody knows is that anyone that you employ who's under 18, you have to have an employment certificate from them. This is an obligation by the minor. So all they have to do, and we've given you guys the website, all the minor has to do is go to this website, fill out the certificate, sign off on it. They also need their parent to sign off on it. And then they need to provide the signed version to you, which you then sign off on, and then you maintain that document in the personnel file just like you would with any other employee. The one key thing to remember is that North Carolina requires that we maintain that employment or that youth certificate for up to 2 years. So just make sure that once the internship is over, you don't toss it in the trash. All right? And this is not for any intern who's 18. This is for anyone under 18. Okay? North Carolina law requires that when you employ a minor, that there are some specific scheduling and break requirements. Most of you probably won't have to deal with this too much because, as far as I know, there are not many interns who are going to be 15 or younger. Right, Corey? So most of you are going to have interns who are 16, 17 years old. And generally, there are not many restrictions. The one restriction, which probably won't apply to most of you, is that you're not supposed to have an intern work for you after 11 p.m. at night. There's also an exception for that. If for some reason you need an intern to work after 11 p.m., as long as you have the parent sign off on it, then generally you're okay. The only other restriction is that you can't have minors working in what North Carolina deems a hazardous, unsafe environment. So we'll go over that here in a second. For those of you that might have interns who are 15, there are a few more restrictions that really just have to do with scheduling. So what I would suggest is if you do have an intern who's 15, let's just talk offline and figure out what you want the schedule to be, and we'll just make sure that it fits the requirements. The other additional thing to understand is this 30-minute break is required for anyone who's 15. And then there are, and I think Corey and I have already talked about this in terms of placing interns in certain programs, but generally if you've got someone who's 15, there are only specific types of internships that they are allowed to do, right? So it's retail, food service, service stations, and then kind of business office work. I'll come back to the drivers here in a second. So these are, under North Carolina law, the hazardous types of jobs that we can't have minors doing. Most of these probably don't apply to the types of internships that we're talking about here. There are a few that we may want to pay attention to. Things with any internships that may have minors working with power tools, those types of things might be an issue that we'd want to talk about offline. But I doubt we have any coal miners here. I doubt that we have anything like that. One other thing to keep in mind is if you are a contractor or a subcontractor, and you want to take one of these interns onto a job site, there could be some OSHA restrictions. So if that's the case, we may want to talk through that offline as well. Okay, youth driving. So this question has come up quite a bit. Under North Carolina law and federal law, there are some restrictions on internships that require driving. Under North Carolina law, for 16 and 17-year-olds, no issue if they want to drive on public roads or on private property. They do need to have a valid driver's license. And there is a radius, so technically you're not supposed to have minors drive more than 25 miles around their office location, okay? That's North Carolina law. Federal law is a little bit more restrictive. Federal law says anyone who's 16 cannot drive as part of an internship program. Only 17-year-olds. Depending on your business, we'd have to probably offline. If driving is going, talk offline. If driving is going to be part of an internship, then it's a fact-based determination on whether the state law or the federal law applies. So if you are going to have an intern drive as part of your internship on a regular basis, then let's talk one-on-one, okay? Yes, ma'am.
That is office meeting. If they can drive to our office and home, we don't need to worry.
So the question is it an issue to have interns drive to and from an office? That is not the issue. Driving has to do with whether you're going to have them drive on behalf of the business, okay? Getting to and from the internship is not what this regulates.
Maybe. So, for example, we have an intern that we want them to go out and deliver posters to businesses. If they're 16 years old, it could be a challenge on the federal side. If they're 17, no problem at all.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And as long as they're only driving within that 25-mile radius, then you're probably fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so the way the chamber has set up the internship program, they've set it up such that every intern gets school credit, right? That is one of the primary pieces to ensure that the internship can be unpaid under federal and state law, right? Here are the other requirements. There can be no expectation of compensation, which is why in the job description we want to put unpaid, right? The training that they're getting as part of the internship is similar to what they might get in a traditional educational setting. The fact that the chamber is also providing some educational programs helps get you to that point, okay? Again, tied to a formal education program, the chamber has set that up for you. The schedule accommodates the intern's academic commitments. All of you will have to work around their school schedules, right? It's limited to a period in which the intern is getting some sort of beneficial learning. So what this means is that it's the intern who's getting value from this program, as opposed to the business that's getting the biggest value from the intern, right? So the focus is on the intern's learning and the benefit to the intern. That kind of plays into the next element. The work does not displace a paid employee. So that means that it's not that you're going to fire a paid employee and bring on an intern to do the exact same work, right? So you're bringing in an intern for an educational piece to expose them to an opportunity or some sort of career choice that they're interested in, and that's the benefit. And then the final piece is that there's no entitlement to a job at the end. So again, in the job description, that may be a key thing to place in there, that the internship does not guarantee a paid position at the end of the program, right? Oh, for those of you who are nonprofits, this is not as strict. So these elements really only apply to for-profit businesses. If you are a nonprofit, you have a lot more flexibility because you can work with volunteers, unpaid volunteers, right? A for-profit business doesn't have that same flexibility. So if you are a nonprofit, you have a lot more flexibility than this. So a lot of the questions we received at the orientation had to do with, can we provide pay to the interns? And you absolutely can. So if you do decide that you want to pay your interns, then you have to pay them like you would any other W-2 employee. So they are not 1099 contractors. If anyone has questions on that, let me know. Generally, for all interns, you are required to pay minimum wage. There are some slight changes. So you could slightly pay less than minimum wage. It's different under federal law than state law. So if you do want to pay less than minimum wage, let's talk offline and figure out which law might apply to you. But generally, we would recommend minimum wage. If you are going to do a paid internship, just like with any other employee, you need to make sure you're tracking all of their hours. The chamber has actually given you a time tracker in your packet, I believe, in your handbook. But you do want to make sure that you're tracking all the hours and you're paying them for all the hours that they work, just like you would any other hourly employee. If you are going to do a paid internship, you also need to have them go ahead and fill out a Form I-9. This is the federal form that indicates that they are eligible to work in the United States. So if you're doing a paid internship, you need to have them fill out a Form I-9. The parents also have to sign off on that Form I-9 as well. So if you have questions about where the parent signs and how that works, just let me know. If by chance your business has 25 or more employees, then in North Carolina, you're also required to participate in the federal E-Verify program. So you would run the student intern who's paid through the E-Verify program, just like you would any other employee, okay? A couple other questions we've gotten at the orientation. Can I give a stipend at the end? If it's an unpaid internship, and you turn around and give a stipend at the end, if you are a for-profit business, you've now converted that unpaid internship into a paid internship. So if you want to provide that stipend, you need to make sure that the stipend would be equivalent to paying minimum wage and overtime, if applicable, to all the hours the intern has worked, okay? So it's completely fine, you just want to make sure that it also now complies with wage and hour requirements, okay? So gifts is another question that we've gotten. Can we give gift cards? Can we give gifts? This is more or less a tax question. Would that gift equate to wages? And that's a tax question. So if you have that concept or you want to provide those sorts of benefits, I would suggest you talk with your CPA. Okay?
Maybe I have a question about the stipend. If you decide to give a stipend at the end, are you having to go back and do the whole W-2 and all that, or is that correct?
Yep. If you do a stipend at the end, you have to go back and fill in all the other information. Absolutely. Yeah. Great question. Any other questions on that? Yes, ma'am.
Even if we're keeping up with all of their hours throughout the entire internship, do we need to pay them as we are paying our current employees, like every 2 weeks? Or could we pay a chunk halfway through and a chunk at the very end so that they see the value of a larger paycheck?
Great question. If you are treating it like a paid internship, then you would have to pay them in accordance with your normal payroll schedule, just like every other employee. Essentially, if you want to pay, you absolutely can. If you do pay, then you have to treat them just like you would another employee. So you have to follow your payroll schedule. In North Carolina, you have to pay all employees at least once a month. You don't have to pay twice a month or every 2 weeks. But if your current payroll schedule indicates that you pay every 2 weeks, then you treat that intern the same way. Great question. Absolutely great question. All right, last slide is just some practical tips. Most of these we mentioned in the orientation, but we're going to talk about a few additional ones. The first one is insurance. So the chamber recommends, doesn't require, but recommends that you have workers' comp insurance. In North Carolina, all employers that have 3 or more employees are required to have workers' comp. So for any of you that bring on an intern, and by bringing on that intern, you now have 3 people working for you, then you might be required to look into workers' comp coverage. Another recommendation is just general liability coverage, also not required by the chamber, but a suggestion. And then we would definitely recommend reach out to your insurance broker and make sure there aren't other coverages that you might want to be aware of. Because we're dealing with minors, and a minor in North Carolina cannot obligate themselves to a contract, any contract that you want the minor to sign, you also need their parent to sign as well. Like we've talked about before, you want to bring the intern in and make sure they understand and you treat them essentially the same way you would your other employees. So a couple key examples of that is emergency contact information. So make sure that for this minor, you have their emergency contact information. That could include any allergy information that they want to voluntarily provide to you, all right? We don't, just as a key thing, we don't want to ask about their medical history or any of that, right? It's just simply in an emergency, what do we need to be aware of, right? Along the same lines, handbook policies. Think about those handbook policies and procedures that you need that intern to understand. Do you have special attendance policies or a call-in policy? Are there certain behavioral requirements, how to communicate with a customer? Anything like that that's specific to your business, that's in a written form, you want to also make sure you provide that, just like with any other employee, you want to provide that to the intern to review and sign off on, okay? Similar to dress code, behavior, call-ins, reporting, any of those procedures that you may not have in writing, but that you also need the intern to understand and follow. Any questions on that?
Mimi, I just wanted to follow up on that. So the students, you have your own business manual we've given you. The students receive a manual too. So some of the things that you've highlighted, the kind of code of conduct we have for the students' dress code, we make them aware that the business is going to inform the student how they expect them to dress and so forth. There are some documentations in that sheet that the student will be coming to you to ask for you to sign.
And always have a parent signature on it. We always have that. So just to kind of let you know that we are aware of that. And then finally, if there's any additional documentation that you like your business might have, like some businesses kind of treat an intern, look at it almost like a volunteer, a part of like they have a volunteer program, and they might have a form that they have that person sign. If you have something like that, that is fine for them to sign that. Again, following what Mimi said, you do need to have both the student and the parent sign that. But there's no restrictions on any additional documentation you might require for the student to sign. I just want to make that clear. The businesses can have whatever they need for themselves.
Absolutely. So if there's something specific to your business or something you're going to specifically have them work on, then absolutely have them sign off on it. Along those lines, I just want to make one quick mention. A lot of you will probably have or may have interns working and doing things for you on social media. If you don't have a social media policy in place, something that advises your team, including your intern, on how you want them to post on social media, language you might want them to use, whether you need for them to approve any post with you or with the internship supervisor before they make that post on social media. You may want to think about having that put in writing in part of their training before you turn them loose to start posting on your behalf. Any other questions? And I'm more than happy to talk offline. Corey's got my direct contact information. So if anyone has specific questions about their internship or about anything we've covered or about putting a job description together, please let me know. I've already spoken to several of you. I'm more than happy to give you my 10 cents, especially if it's, does the federal law on wage and hour matters or the state law apply? Okay.
Thank you, Mimi. So I'm going to transfer over to the manual that we've passed out. I'm going to grab that out of your handout. I know that some of you have probably been looking through that. A lot of what's in here is very, kind of common sense type stuff, but I'll just hit kind of the highlights. again, some of these things we've covered already. We've covered in our internship meetings. But we are the students are going to do 120 hours, so that is the minimum. Now, if they want to do more than 120 hours, we're okay with that.
They don't have to just stop at 120. If you want them to do more than the 120 hours, you're welcome to do that. But the minimum requirement for the students is 120 hours. That's something that I want everyone to be aware of. The other piece that is really important to understand is they're not just doing an internship, they're also going to be attending monthly sessions where they're going to be learning career readiness skills. So they're going to be learning teamwork skills, communication skills, professionalism, financial literacy skills, a lot of things that we're hoping they're going to learn these skills, and then they're going to be asked, each session they're going to have some journal requirements to do, and one of their journal prompts will be actually coming back to the business they're interning at and asking questions about what they've learned that day. So in your packet, it lists all the sessions and when they are, and the times and so forth. If the student, we want you to be aware of that those times. It depends on the student's schedule. That might be a day they might not be able to come in. So because they're going to be in that session all day from 8:30 to close to 2 o'clock. So I just want you to be aware of those session dates. They might not be able to actually come to your business for their internship experience on those days. Now, if they can, great. But I just want you to be aware that that might be a day they might not be able to come because of being out of school all day. We've talked a little about an internship experience compared to work experience. Does everyone kind of understand a little bit of the difference? Basically, the kids are going to learn work skills. There's going to be things that they're going to do that are just general things like make copies and general things at your office. But an internship allows them to not just do those things, but also learn more about your business and learn the skills that they can take with them and utilize in their future. So it's okay to have them do the general labor skills, make copies, film something. Like we have actually Allie right here. This is Allie Harper. She's our student intern we have from UNC working with our communications department. Things like that. But I mean, we also want you to expose them to really what your business is about, and then projects that maybe you need help in that you maybe have not been able to do, and really so they can learn more about your career. So if this is something they really want to do, they might realize, hey, I really like this, or I might realize, hey, I really don't like this, and that's okay. So I just want everyone to understand that the internship experience is kind of a combination of general work skills, but also them learning things about your business and about the career that you're in. So, really, the student, most of you have been placed with the student, you've interviewed them, you developed that relationship. The students are not going to know everything right off the bat, and you're going to probably at times have to do a little hand-holding. I think that you have to be aware of that there's going to be some times where you're going to have to do a little hand-holding during the process. I find that through the internship that I've had over the years, if you can start off with a lot of hands-on at the beginning, then you can start to let go as you move on. That's really been the success that I've had with my interns, and I can others that have had internships. Deborah's going to talk about her experience, and Barbara will too. I think that, but you are going to probably need to expect them not to know as much as you think they might, or they might know more. I mean, you never know. I think that's one of the biggest things is just understanding that this is a learning experience for them, and they are eager to learn. I've kind of gone over the 120 hours. I'm on page 3. I'm kind of just briefly going through some things. One thing, I'm at the bottom of page 3. Wake County Schools. So Wake County Schools has their own internship program. If you have a student who attends Wake County Schools, they technically have to have more than 120 hours to receive their credit. They actually have to have at least 135 hours. However, the curriculum, the monthly sessions that the kids will be attending are going to count towards those additional hours. So you're not going to have to do more than the 120. But I just want you to be, if the kids are saying, I need to get 135 hours in, it's going to be a combination of the hours with you and the curriculum hours. So I just want you to be aware of that. the big piece that we're going to kind of hit in a second, and Deborah's going to kind of cover, one thing that we really want to stress is we really want both the business and the student, when they begin their internship, to kind of have a plan of what the student is going to do and during the internship experience. So we're going to talk about setting some goals and objectives. Those are loose. They can be adjusted. You can add to them. You can take away. The template that I have in here is actually something that I have my own intern with our foundation this summer, and it's kind of a communications marketing internship, and I'm having a student work on different projects. And so some of the due dates that we've set, I mean, this is actually real. The template is real. We're ahead in some things, and we're behind in others. You know, that's we'll probably realize that's how things are. And I've added things. I've added additional things to the. But this allows us to kind of. It allows the business and the student to kind of have a general idea of what they're working on. And then when there's days that you really can't be hands-on with the student, they have something to go to. They can look at. Where they kind of have a plan of what they should be working on. So that's something that we're kind of stressing is that internship kind of plan that we're putting together, that is due 15 days after the internship begins. So we're going to go over what that looks like in a second, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So whenever your internship begins, we are asking that to be turned in. It's really the student's responsibility to turn that in, but you are a part of the process of building that plan. So any questions about that? On page 4, there's a section on inter-supervisor mentor duties, 1 through, again, we talked about, give them a challenging learning environment, assist them with developing their objectives, assign work for the student to do if you're not the supervisor. Try to meet with them, possibly on a weekly basis, to kind of give them feedback. I think what's one of the things that I've learned is, even if they're not doing something well, let them know how they can improve that. We need to give them constant feedback during this process. And so if you were able to meet with them on a weekly basis to kind of catch up where you're at with them, that's great. If your schedule does not permit you to do that, I do recommend that it's at least done every 2 weeks. Some type of feedback about how things are going, if there's areas to improve. There's evaluation forms that you complete at the midterm part of the internship and the final, but you can still provide them feedback throughout the whole process, and that's going to help them be become a better learner in the whole process. If there's any issues going on during the internship, we're going to talk about the support team. You can contact the career development coordinator in the school or your support team member. So we've actually assigned an additional person, besides having each school representative kind of involved in this. We actually have a volunteer support team member assigned to different schools. They are there to support both the student and the business. And in reality, their main focus is the business. A big part of this program and what we really are focusing on is making sure this is a successful process for you, the business owner, because we want you to do this again. We want you to continue. Some of you have done this before, so this is not new, but for those, this is the first time. We want you to have a successful experience that you want to continue to do this for many years to come. So if there's any issues going on, please let us know. It could be the school official, it could be the support team member, it could be both people, but let one of those people know if there's any issues going on. Really, the next part underneath there kind of gives you an idea of who's kind of involved in what. Monitor the student's performance, that's both the CDC and the support team member. Read and evaluate the student journal and final project, that's the CDC. The school official is the one that actually gives a grade to the student, so they take your feedback. They're the ones giving the grade. You're not giving the grade, they're the ones giving the grade. Serve as the lead contact. I put the Wake Forest career support team member. Really, either the career development coordinator or the support team member can be your main contact. It really just depends on who you'd like to communicate with. Hold meetings with and advise student intern about appropriate behavior, performance standards, and academic information. That's the CDC and the support team member. So there's kind of accountability to the student during this whole process, and there's support for you, the business. I want to skip one section. I want to kind of jump. It's actually in the packet. There's and then I'm going to pass this over to Deborah. there's this document that was in your packet, this internship plan. You guys see that? This is actually was in the student manual, so we kind of have a student and business manual. This is what the student has to turn in 15 days after they have started the internship. This is a template. It is not, we're not, everybody has a different way they want to measure this experience with their student. But we've given this as a template to the students, and basically Deborah's in a second going to kind of go over how to build this. But this is an example of how you can, the student's going to fill in some objectives, what they're going to actually do, and then a due date when you want them to complete it. And then on the back of the sheet, it actually lists the responsibilities of the student. So most of you have developed a job description. I think everybody in this room has. Not every business has, but everybody in this room has. So kudos for developing one. You can take your job description and put that right there, your responsibilities. That's part of the reason why we created that. That could be your job description in that area. And even the learning objectives. The template that I have in your manual was actually directly from the job description I developed for our intern this summer. I took the things that I was hoping he could accomplish, and then he also met with me and shared some things he wanted to do. And so this is kind of a shared experience. This plan is a shared experience, and Deborah's going to kind of highlight that in a second. We are actually asking the students when they come in to meet with you, starting with the internship, to kind of have some ideas of what they want to learn already in mind. Any questions about this document right here? So again, this is not in your packet. This is what the students are going to bring to you, so I just want you to be aware of what it looks like. They'll have an electronic copy so they can actually fill it out electronically. And I'll even say this, if it needs to be, it does not have to necessarily, if you want to go with a different template than what I have here, that is fine. We just need to see some type of plan of what you're going to do. That's where our focus here. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Deborah Horton, and she's going to kind of talk about how do you set these goals and objectives. So she's going to kind of highlight that right now. So Deborah, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you, Deborah. And what I want to say is thank you to the Renaissance Center for hosting us today. If you've never been here before, this is a great facility. Raise your hand if it's the first time you've been here today. At least one, always. We hope you come back.
Thank you, Corey. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you as business leaders for your willingness to share these experiences and what you know to make our students more successful, which is what we're all here about. And that's a passion place. And so we really appreciate the time and effort that you're going to give this. And kudos to Corey and the Chamber Foundation for when I first had my intern about 15 years ago, we were flying the plane when we were building it. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was a new ED in another nonprofit, and they said, here, take some students. Sure, sounds like a great idea. And then the rock hit my head, and I said, okay, now what do I do with you? So I had these lovely, wonderful people sitting in front of me, and I said, okay, guys, what do you want to do for an internship? And I quickly learned that was not a good idea. Playing video games and having snacks available every day was not exactly what we were looking for. So over the years, I have helped to define what that means a little bit. And although I really wish I'd have had this paperwork when I was doing that, especially laying out the curriculum pieces. Corey has given you such a great guide. I can't stress enough, these are the three things to me that an internship kind of boils down to, and that's collaboration, flexibility, and accountability. If we can get those three things done, we're going to be a big help to that student. We also want to be sure that we stay within all of our guidelines, and Mimi, thank you so much for sharing all of that. None of those pieces should stop us from being able to collaborate, be flexible, and have accountability, both to ourselves, our business, and certainly to the student. Because our business also needs to understand, and the people that we work with, why this is important. Because there were days, and they were planned days, when I couldn't be there for my student, and I had to have a team within us to say, okay guys, you're going to meet with our intern today, and this is what you're going to go over, and this is what they're going to hopefully learn from you today. The other thing that I found really important, especially this last one that I have here at the Renaissance Center, the last two, was field trips. It was not always coming here. We had set up times to meet with folks over at the town. They wanted to learn about, I don't care where you work, risk management is something you're going to deal with. So I had them meet with Ben. I actually sat down, collaborated with them. Well, you have a fancy sheet. This is what my fancy sheet looked like. Okay? This is what we sat down together. I actually gave him a copy of my job description, a copy of the job description for the manager, for several other key members of our team, and said, okay, highlight something in each one of those. And I bet I just messed up your video, didn't I? Sorry. That you think would be interesting for those folks, something you want to learn about. And he knew coming into this that our key was going to be about theater management. It wasn't just about what's happening, because here's the thing. He enjoyed theater, and that was a passion for him, but he wanted to be a nurse. So I tried to find ways to, do crosswalks between what we were learning in theater management, although he wanted to know all the pieces. It's more than just a person who stands up and sings and performs. There's a whole lot that goes on prior to that. So he did, and so that's how we came up with our list. The short list on top is what the town required. So we had to do those things first. The town required drug testing and background checks and parent signatures on contracts, etc. Those were easy ones to do. And then we had the longer list. And that list was very flexible because, as Corey mentioned, some days we were able to meet what we planned and others weren't. So when I look in your book and I see your handbook that you've got kind of topics that are going to happen, it would be a great crosswalk if that's what they're having a conversation about, if there's something you could possibly do in your internship that would support that conversation that's already happening. That's a great guide for being able to do it. So I would say those are some, and the meetings. I did try to meet weekly. There was only a few times that we did, and sometimes it was just a 5-minute check-in. Sometimes we set time aside where his whole time with us was going to be for he and I to sit and talk about this. Talk about our planning, talk about our collaboration. What was he happy about? What was I happy about? What was he struggling with? What was I struggling with? And just general conversations so that he felt like he had great buy-in, that he was helping to build his own internship. And one of the things that we did when he left us, we celebrated. We had a little graduation party for him here. And we asked him, said, tell us about your experience. And he said, actually, the sitting and being able to tell you what I liked and didn't like was a huge part of this. He said, I learned a lot, but I grew in my confidence by being able to have those conversations with you and with others. And that was not even something that I had really anticipated, was building his own self-confidence, his esteem, his self-esteem. And so you may find surprises as well when you go through it. But give them that opportunity. Again, from the first time saying let's play video games to my 6th intern, I learned a lot. Although I still did give him snacks every day after school, because that's just what mothers do. To make sure that he hadn't missed much, or sometimes he was running over here from another class. So we did keep up that tradition. But he took so many, and we stay in touch. I stay in touch with almost all of them to this day, but especially with Tyler, who was here 2 years ago. And he said, I never thought that learning about the box office, cash management was going to. He said, you'd be surprised how much cash management I have to do in a nurse's role in a doctor's office. And he said, who knew? I thought it was kind of silly those days. And so those also surprised him and kept him refreshed about what was going on. And he sees the direct ties now, which is what we wanted to do. And so then, I think we talked a little bit already about the flexibility piece. Days come and go. He was out sick some, I was out, things happened. We regrouped, collaborated, figure out how we did it. But we got the whole list checked off. We were cutting it close there those last couple of weeks. We were doubling up on some things, but we made it happen. And he felt successful at the end. And then the accountability. He has accountability to you. He's got those papers he's got to fill out. He's got to be sure those hours are done. He's got to keep those log sheets. But we have great accountability to them too. And mostly our accountability is that we have provided you with some tools that move you into a successful career, a successful post-high school experience, whatever that means. And so keeping those lines of communication open, keeping that flexibility open is a huge part of the accountability piece. It really is. And so Corey has set up, and the Chamber Foundation has set up a tremendous logistical process for you. I want to remind you about the people part. I want to remind you about making those personal relationships with this young lady and gentleman. But I also want to remind you that when they walk out the door on the last day, don't let it be your last day, if at all possible. Sometimes I'm just quick checking emails to this day. Even with my video gaming guys, we still try to stay in touch. And they have built wonderful lives, very successful. They floundered for a little while in college, and sometimes Mom even sent me an email saying, "Can you remind them to do something?" Sure, I'll be back up, Mom. Not a problem. Just at your level, I'm not asking you that you have to say that kind of, but just know that this is something that hopefully we're building a lifelong process for by them being in your business. And I know all of you in this room, I know most of you, and I know that you would be sitting here today if you're not making that commitment. The both professional and personal commitment to these young folks, because it's really important. Any questions for me? Any logistics, any technical? Well, how did you come up with that list? We looked through the job descriptions, and that's when we started everything. Thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to share my experience with you as a intern supervisor. Ooh, that sounded very important.
Yes.
I just call myself a captain. Keep it kid-like, keep it friendly. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to share the actual template in the document. Is it page 6? Is that what the sorry? Just the ones that we put together. All the things, recruit sponsors, write a newsletter, write a brochure, social media. Those all those things that were there, and the tasks that he or she was doing, it came right from the job description. And ironically, Carson, who's our intern, he has completed the brochure. We're finalizing that, and it'll be done. We were hoping to have it done. I think it was like maybe by July 1, or it might be July 15th now. But the newsletter is being finalized, so we're got a few days behind. But he's setting up legislative visits for us. So he's doing a lot of great things for our organization. So we're on track with what we've put together there. And he actually helped write a lot of this manual. He actually put a lot of this manual together with that we're doing. So you really can get provide them a great experience, but also it can also support your business too. The next person I wanted to have come up just for a second, she's going to highlight one part of the manual is Barbara Wiggins. If you'd like to come up, Barbara, we're going to talk about the actual eval form that we have in the manual. So I think it's on page 7, if I'm not mistaken. 7 and 8. So Barbara, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Corey, and it's great to see all of you here today. I'm going to just give you a little history. I'm a graduate of Ohio State University, and I've taught in several states. And when I moved into North Carolina, I brought technology with me, and hence I have a high interest in the social media and how we move forward in connecting to the whole world. And so that's a big part of Tim Wiggins Inspections that I focus on, is having moved various locations, I understand this is a very small world we live in. And so when we work with our interns, that's something that we talk about as well. From my educational perspective, I've actually probably managed, I don't know, over 100 interns through the school system. So I am a person who has been involved with both sides of the world. So when it comes to the documents and the processes that we're putting in place, Wake County Schools provided that initial exposure. But then when I stepped into the business world, I was like, oh, it's a little different on this side. So consequently, as we developed this, those are some of the processes that I took into place, both sides. So as Corey has indicated, and as Deborah has indicated, it is important to develop a relationship with your students. You're looking to the future. At the same time, you're looking at that daily, oh no, what do I do with them in the next minute? So it's working with people. That's basically what it is. At the same time, I think one of the most critical components that will benefit you and our community, which is really what we're here for, is this relationship building with our community. And that is helping the student to identify their goals. And that's been mentioned. But not just the goals for this, but the long-term goals. We all have skills and desires to achieve in our day-to-day. And that can be in our business aspects, but what I find is the things that your passions are, if you take those into your business with you, you're probably going to be more successful. So I encourage you to consider and reflect and try to figure out some keywords that help you and the student identify that passion. I do recommend a source. It's called ONET Online. You might want to jot that down. I think we'll probably be sending that out to people eventually. We use a little bit with the job descriptions. But again, in my years of educational experience and working across the state, and actually I'm doing training in the nation, what we find is that this is a federal website. It actually has jobs. But what's valuable for you is it gives you keywords to help the students understand and for you to understand so that you're sharing a common language when it comes to what their passion is and then how that translates into your business. Yes.
The letter O, net or OE?
ONET online.net. Might be .org. Anyway, yeah, if you put ONET online, it'll come up. So what I wanted to emphasize there too is that you can type in the keyword. Let's say the student says that they want to be an audiologist. You can type that in there, and then it will show all kinds of related skills, interests, tasks, and also related careers. So when we talk about the person who wanted to be a nurse, but yet they're in this industry, how do those transfer? And you heard that. You heard the reality of that. So this is a source that gives you those words to be able to help pull out of your intern what they might want to do. So, simple, I'd recommend it highly. So from the business perspective, as Corey indicated, one of our challenges always has been, on the school side, as well on the industry side, is helping those two parties come together to figure out what tasks are going to be accomplished. Because that's what you are, you're a working group. So I'm just going to share a little bit about experiences that I've had on the working side. And that is that our first intern, I reached out to some of my peers to say, we're looking at drone technology because I'd like to get my husband off the roof and out from under the house so that, we can continue to have an inspector that can perform his job. So drone technology was developed. This young man came on board, explored that process, helped us pick out our drone. In other words, did the research for us. We, of course, researched it ourselves, did a comparison. They came out to be the same. And so he proceeded with that process. The other intern that was there at the same time was interested in the social media aspect of it. He helped to rebuild our website. Once he started rebuilding the website, we realized we needed a professional to do it. So it's not that he wasn't successful, it exposed what we didn't know. And that's what was valuable. And I like technology, but I don't want to sit there and do it all day. So finding somebody else to help us understand that. So then we hired a company to help us do that. And so then our next intern, again, we brought him in on the social media part. But the fact is, I also always ask my interns what they want to learn while they're with us. So then that jumps to the third intern. And he was interested specifically in learning because he wants to go into construction. So he was interested in learning those aspects. Now, as indicated, we couldn't have him go out there, and sling a hammer or anything, but he could observe. And also, we had him do research for our social media so that he's learning about the industry and then posting things. And so that leads us to a partnership with the chamber, and he went to one of our business after hours experiences. Everybody there ended up knowing him by the end. He was phenomenal at So you uncover the abilities of your interns as you work with your interns. So that's a little bit about being that kind of a person. Now, how does that translate then into your internship plan? So as you look at your internship plan, as Corey indicated, you're going to draft your initial objectives from your job description. And that's what we do every time. But then, as you uncover these other gifts that are coming to you, you'll begin to adjust that a little bit. And the processes are there such to help address that for you. So when it comes to evaluation, how do you evaluate? Well, I think it's like any other business and industry, and that is, again, you have the tasks that you want to have met, but then you may have to shift how that's evaluated. So as you look at, and there's a handout in your packet there that says Wake Forest Site Supervisor Evaluation. And so with that, we have created, this is very similar to the Wake County Schools, so if your student comes from Wake County Schools, they are actually going to use this process, but you may see other interns just from the school system who have a slightly different one, but it's very similar. So on the page where it says the supervisor evaluation side, this was actually adapted through some business professionals who sat at the table with us and said, well, this seems to be a little too, subjective. We want it to be more objective. So some of the words are shifted, some of the perspectives reflect more of a business mindset. They want it to be simple so that it's not something you have to take a lot of time on. So as you look through that, bear that in mind as you think about your entering into the site. What is it you're looking for? So again, take your key words and kind of make notes for yourself so that you are evaluating appropriately. So as Corey indicated, you will not be giving them a grade, but now I put on the hat of being a school supervisor of interns. We look at all of the documentation that you send us. We listen to what the students are saying. We talk to the business professionals if we have questions. It wasn't unusual for me to say, I thought you didn't, maybe the business professional didn't send it back to me. I'd give them a call, to talk to them online, over the phone, in those manners to get additional information because we want everyone to be successful. As Corey also indicated, as we go through the monthly sessions, we will talk to the students about these characteristics. And so again, if you know that that's coming up and you're seeing a little bit of a challenge with your own student, communicate with us. So now I have another role, working with the chamber, and that is to be an intern sponsor with businesses, to communicate between all parties. So again, you'll have our contact information, you can call us, and basically we're going to try to help all parties be successful. On the back side then, you're going to see that there's a couple of questions. Again, as an intern sponsor, as a school person, this was important. If you can just write down a few notes, that helps us to get a sense of what you're thinking. In other words, more words than just, excellent, above average, or whatever. And as Corey and also Deborah indicated, we're here to help students grow. We're here to help your business grow. Because one of the benefits of being involved with this program is that you're developing relationships. You're developing relationships with the chamber, with the community, with people who will come back to your business in the future. That's really what internship is about. And that's why we try to help our students understand that. And remember, not everyone is an outgoing young person. Some want to sit at the computer all day. Not me, but there are those who do. And so we try to find out what helps people be successful for their future. And they only have 24 hours in a day. We want people to make sure that they are identifying what they want to do with those to create a successful day, and the next day, and the next day. So, Corey, anything else you'd like me to cover?
Well, I was just on the due dates, we have a year-round student. I'm guessing that it's just
They can due dates if you have a student that is going to be going year round from Franklin Academy.
Oh, yes.
They can't be adjusted.
Okay.
Yes. And one thing notice on the back, there is an area where again we're saying you're not giving a grade, but it does ask if you wanted to give them out of a 10-point scale what your rating will be. That's only on the final evaluation. You don't have to do that on the midterm. That's only on the final. So if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I'm developing dementia. I hope not. But I think I sent out individual documents like the eval form. So if you want to, you'll have your own copy and so forth. So yeah, you should have copies of that. If you ever need a copy of that, we can send to you any of these, anything in this packet. Thank you, Barbara, so much.
And again, that's what, in our role as being assistants to you, if you need something, if Corey's not available, we're available. So we're a tag team here. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. We only have a few more minutes. We'll wrap up for any final questions. In the packet, the last couple of pages talk about the actual curriculum session. So you'll notice actually some of the topics that are being evaluated on are actually topics of learning. You'll see that. Now, because some of you are going to have students who are going to start this summer and end in the fall, some of the things are not going to be all covered, yet. So you might have to, but I do believe most of the areas in the eval you should be able to evaluate. But we are asking students, when they are post. Yes, Barbara, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if something doesn't apply, just put in it.
Yes.
That's what and that was not uncommon.
Yes.
As a school person to see that occasionally there were things that weren't right.
So if something doesn't apply, we can put in it. That's correct. But as you'll see, they're going to receive a lot of great information in their monthly sessions. And then session 8 and 9 are kind of wrap-up sessions. That might be, as we're working through this, we're building as we go. There might be a day you might want to put on your calendar, either the 21st or the 20th. We have not April 21st or May 20th. We haven't finalized how we're doing the wrap-up sessions with the presentations and so forth, but most likely the students who are starting now probably will present on April 21st their presentation. So you might want to put that date down. We'd love to maybe have you be there and see what they present for their whole experience. And then the 20th, we're potentially might just be our graduation. We're still sessions 8 and 9 are kind of our wrap-ups. We're still finalizing the true details of how that looks, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. And you're welcome to come to any of these sessions. I know that you guys are free of so much time, but any of these sessions you'd like to come to, or if you have interest in maybe being a guest speaker at any of these sessions, we'd love to have you possibly participate. And I'll even highlight one of the sessions, Session 3, it's on November 13th. We are planning to do some tours of businesses of kids who are actually interning, active internships. So, you're most of you again are starting this summer. You're kind of called the summer fall, but there are also going to be fall internships. So we're going to ask for some volunteers within that cohort who would like to showcase their business to not just your student, but to other students, so they can kind of see a variety of businesses in the area. So that November 13th date, it'll most likely be kind of like from 12 to 1:45, that kind of lunchtime period will be when we would do it. But I just wanted you to be aware of that. Any questions about the monthly sessions and how that relates to the overall program? And then the final piece is really the support team. We've mentioned it several times, but as you'll see here, it lists, the top table kind of lists the support team members and what schools they are aligned to. So based on where your student goes, that's your support team. That's your support team volunteer. And then at the bottom is the school contacts. That's more or less your career development coordinator. So the student basically has 2 people who are there to support both the student and the business. And we just so you know who they are and their contact. I did not put Mimi's contact here, but I'll make sure you get it. It's in the PowerPoint already, but please, Mimi's here to support everyone in this program and is more than willing to answer any of your questions. And so I'll just wrap up with any final questions. I know this is probably a lot of what we covered today is common sense, but we wanted to provide this just so everyone feels comfortable with what they're doing, and also to create a video so that those who were not able to attend would know kind of what's going on. We cannot thank you enough for being willing to participate. We have 43 businesses officially offering internships, and we have about 66 kids. However, several of the businesses are offering more than one opportunity. So we're pretty close to fulfilling what we need. We're still recruiting very specific right now, mainly in engineering, Still physical therapy, still a little bit, just because that's a very popular one, as you probably know. Physical therapy, engineering, architects, physical therapy, and veterinarian probably are our main ones we're recruiting right now. But we are very, very thankful for all of you being here and participating. And so the final piece, as you probably saw, there is a waiver we do ask for. We'd love to get it today. It's just acknowledging that you understand what you're doing with the program, and you have either been to this training or watched the video if you did not come. And the fourth bullet about the liability insurance that Wake County Schools has, that's not our policy, but if you have a Wake County school student, they do have a limit the liability insurance policy. If a student was to get hurt, there's a policy to protect the student in that case. But if that was to happen, you would need to contact the school about that, and they'll take care of whatever needs to happen there. We're not involved in that at all, but we just want you to be aware of that. Anyway, we do need this document back. If you can turn it in today, that'd be great. If not, we do need it back over the next couple of weeks. Any final questions? Well, thank you again for being here. Please, we've got Chick-fil-A. You can't turn down Chick-fil-A. We got fruit, chicken minis, and even some chicken biscuits. So, thank you again.